Telegram.com, Telegram Network. This is the Oddity Report. I'm your host, Denota. I'm joined up by my co-host, Dora. She's here today. Say hello to the people.
Hi, people.
Can you be in a relationship with someone you're not physically attracted to? Now, some would say, well, looks aren't everything. It's about the character and the quality of the person. And the reason why I'm posing this question, because I'm looking at the assortment of television shows that are currently on Netflix and on Prime. And among those titles include Love at First Sight, Blind Love, Blind Date,
Love is blind.
Love is Blind. And then you also have um, Sexy Beast or Mask Beast. Did I get that right?
Sexy beast. Just sexy beast.
Sexy Beast, right? And these shows, they're just people who are trying to, get to know each other. They formulate a bond and a relationship of some kind just through conversation. And on one hand, you can see how a person could, be enthralled by the personality or what the person projects, but not necessarily have like a physical attraction to that person. But is that enough to withstand a long, sustaining relationship where it's not predicated upon physical appeal?
You know, I feel like it depends on what the person wants. And the reason I say this is, as a woman, I've had so many conversations about romance and dating throughout the years. And there's a school of thought with women that I'm going to laugh because it's kind of ridiculous that if you date someone that you're more attractive than them, they'll be just so happy to have this pretty person on their arm that they'll treat them well, right?
Okay.
Um, a little superficial because maybe they have a terrible personality, right? But they're treating you as like a trophy girlfriend, arm candy, whatever. Or maybe they can just be genuinely a nice person, right?
Okay.
But so I'm just saying that that's like one school of thought. But for me personally, I have to be attracted to my partner because if I'm not attracted to you, I don't want to sit next to you. I don't want to spend time with you. I don't want you to touch me. So I can't imagine not being attracted to a partner. But I can see like it really depends on what the person wants. Like, do you really, really, really want a relationship where you'll sacrifice being attracted and like, you know, he's good enough or she's good enough
Okay.
versus I see him or I see her and I'm like, I just can't wait to hold them. I can't wait to kiss them. Like, I really feel like it depends on what the person wants.
All right, but what about the fact that you may be missing out on, a relationship of a lifetime where this person may complete you in ways beyond the physical appeal? Like, as you've pointed out, the idea that this person may, treasure you and hold you to high esteem. But at the same time, I reckon your point in terms of, well, you're not attracted to the person, but you could be denying yourself an opportunity of a lifetime, perhaps.
That's a good point.
But me
It's
personally, like, yeah, I gotta be attracted to you. Like, I don't want to date a wildebeest and she got a good heart because I can't see your heart. Like, I'm not going to try to copulate with your heart. Like, at the end of the day, like, you gotta have some basic, features, right? Two hands, two legs, two eyes.
the
You know,
basics. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm shallow and I don't apologize for it. That's just how it is. But speaking for the other people who like may not be in a position where they can really choose, like they got to take what they can get,
Mm,
like maybe they should look beyond looks. They should look to the heart and just assume that the heart looks better than the face.
mm.
But if the heart doesn't look better than the face,
What you got?
that maybe you need to just keep it pushing.
Right.
But you know, relationships is interesting because there's so many different pieces to consider. Like on one hand, like one aspect is how they look, the other aspect is how they treat you,
Hmm.
the other aspect is their character, their
Hmm.
integrity.
Hmm.
Like those things account for something.
Yeah.
But if we had to ascribe percentage, like what weight we would give to like how a person look. For me, and I'm not advising anyone to adopt this, but I'm gonna give it about 80% weight.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it about 80% weight.
I'm
Like I
shocked.
just have to be comfortable. I want to be inspired by how you look and how you feel and how you smell. So if you can't conjure up that inspiration in me, then I don't see the benefit. Like, yeah, you could have a good heart, you could be a good person, but for me, that's not how I rank my priorities.
Interesting. I feel like I'm learning a lot about you. 80%. I would have never guessed you said that. But I agree. But you know what? Let me throw something into this conversation. You're a relatively good looking guy. What about the ones who are not so good looking?
Then they got to develop a skill set. Like they got to maybe learn how to cook really good. Maybe they got to be able to like I don't know, buy because there's a lot of makeup that is available for girls who are less desirable,
Mm.
and perhaps they could go into like I don't know. I know Dollar Tree. I was reading sort of whole assortment of makeup, relabeled, right? Because it's like disposed of or overstocked, name brand, and so I would suggest. And again, I'm not encouraging you. I'm only suggesting that you do things to try to fix yourself up a little bit. Maybe get a face transplant if it's possible. Look, medical insurance is covering so many different procedures nowadays. You got to find yourself a good doctor who go along with the game plan, and he'll know how to play ball and get yourself fixed up. Like get yourself fixed up. You don't have to be stuck with looking unattractive. Like there are little things you could get Botox. um there are a lot of things that you can do to enhance how it is that you appear to other people. Perhaps you can drug the guy that you're seeking after. No, 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 I'm being serious.
Are
You can
you?
absolutely, because I think you need to be able to think outside of the box when you're not physically
Mm,
appealing.
mm. But what about the male perspective? You were talking about women. You were talking about face transplants and makeup. What if you are not so attractive man? Then what?
I mean, look, if you're not an attractive man, look, we have to be honest about this. Men and women are not held to the same standard.
Mm.
Men don't have to be attractive.
Uh,
Like you could be ugly, you could be musty, you could
uh,
be dirty. Trust me,
uh,
I've seen it.
really?
Right?
Where?
Well, just look, you go walk outside and you see things that don't make sense. Sexual occasion occurs quite often. If you just open your eyes, these things become so readily apparent.
Mm,
For a guy, if you're not attractive, listen, get money. Find a way to get money. No, I'm serious. Go mow some grass,
mm.
right? Maybe learn how to rap or maybe make it to the NBA, the NFL. Do something to put money in your pocket. Women are not going to care how you look as long as you're paid. And to be honest with you, there are women who will tolerate, your stench
Mm.
if you're well paid, right?
You're
You can
you're
have,
bugging right now. You're bugging.
but it's true. And look, it doesn't bring me comfort to say these things, but I cannot turn a blind eye to reality. All right. Women don't really care about that sort of thing, but guys do. And so for the guys, I would suggest look, if you're dating a girl who is unattractive, and you know she's unattractive because you're not attracted to her,
Mm.
but for some reason you feel compelled to be with her because maybe something happened, traumatic brain injury. These things are real. And so we don't want to be judgmental. We want to be able to acknowledge the fact that everybody, has their reasons for doing strange and odd things. And that's okay. But to be in a relationship, because that's the crux of the issue, is whether or not you could be in a relationship. Now, if you were faced hypothetically with such a dilemma, like how would you approach it?
You know, I think I would try. And when I say try, I would do 2 to 3 dates to see, okay, what's his personality like? You mentioned this before. How does he treat me? How does he make me feel? Is he paying attention? So if I mention something in date one, like I say that I love peonies, and date two, he brings me peonies. I'm like, oh, he was listening. Oh wow, what a sweetheart. Oh, how
Okay.
thoughtful. Small little things like that really turns the tide about how you feel about a person, right? And sometimes when that person treats you right, and vice versa as well, you they may start to become more attractive, right? Because
Gotcha.
initially you're like, oh, not my type. Then, oh, he's so sweet. He has the kindest eyes. You start to appreciate different things,
Okay.
and the tide might turn. So I would give it a try
So you give it
because
a shot.
I would,
Okay.
because for women, there are more, New York City, there are more men than women. There are more men than women. So I would give it a try. And up to 2, 3 dates, like I said, if it doesn't work out, then I'll say,
I mean, you raised some interesting points. One of the things I would like to add to it, because I take your point in terms of like you develop this rapport with someone, you're connecting with them at a base level, and it's like this aspect in terms of how they appear and the fact that they're not physically appealing to you, and you want to find a way forward because you want to be bigger than like the notion of dismissing someone purely based upon looks.
Mhm.
But I think to your point, right, you got to be able to, let's say, think beyond how the person look. And I could suggest, like, for women who are faced with a situation where, look, you're with a guy, you've been dating him, but you know you're not really physically attracted to him. One of the things I would suggest is like do something perhaps that could damage your cornea, like glaze into the sun. Look, it's summertime now. So you could just go outside and don't wear any sunglasses, any type of protective lenses, and just glaze at the sun for an extended length of time. And I think that'll help you in terms of now that you can't see straight, what it is that you're looking at would take on a new, so like you would gain some new perspective, right? So if you can't change someone's mind, you just change your vantage point,
That's
change
what we're
your
doing.
proximity to the individual,
Mm.
and do things. Or if that doesn't work, I mean, you can try maybe put in some, I don't know, some damaging chemical into your eye. Get the like speed it. It's a way of speeding up the
Denoda.
process.
This sounds like permanent damage.
I know, and it's not a really a good idea, but
No,
I'm
it's
just
not.
trying to consider all of the ways in which mitigation could be held.
Okay, yeah, we're not going to take any of that advice, by the way.
Yeah, don't take any of that advice. But nah, this is a real issue because I know like there's a lot of people listening to this and probably pondering in their minds, like, wow, this is happening to me. Like I'm with someone that I'm not attracted to. I know I'm not attracted to them. And perhaps they're not attracted to you either.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what do? You try to make it work. You damage your cornea. If that doesn't work, you try some chemicals.
Okay,
That
now.
doesn't work, you go perhaps to, I don't know, your doctor, and maybe he could do some magical, or anytime you look at each other, maybe just talk through filters or something, right? Like try something. Don't give up on love.
I, while you were talking about your ridiculousness, I was thinking that what you find unattractive may be attractive to someone else, right? So, like, your Shrek might be someone's Prince Charming. So that's why it's, in my opinion, just let them go. Let them find what's meant for them, and what's meant for you is still out there. It can be frustrating, but I really think, for me, I wouldn't say 80% is the weight that I put towards attraction. I would say I would give it 30%.
Okay. So you would give it 30%. Now
Yeah.
let's add another layer to this.
Uh-huh.
So let's say on one hand, you're in a in a relationship with a guy and the guy lives long distance,
Uh-huh.
right? You barely see each other. Let's say you see him once a month at
Oh,
best.
wow. Okay.
And the romance is phenomenal. I
Mm.
mean, toes curling,
Ooh.
giggles, just you name it, all of those ingredients are in that interaction.
Okay.
But then on the other hand, You have a guy, he's not, you know, knocking down the walls or anything like that, but he's really nice, he's really sweet, very thoughtful, and he lives closer by. Like, what consideration would you give to that guy who lives closer in proximity, more accessible to you, versus the guy who you see and every time you get together, you only see each other once a month, and it's magical. When you guys get together, it's pure magic. But with this other guy, it's magic of a different kind. So, how would you approach that situation where, you're faced with that type of dilemma?
That's an interesting one. So wait a minute. Clarifying question. The guy that's long distance, we're not in an exclusive relationship, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. And I have someone who's just okay, closer
You're not
proximity.
physically attracted to him, but you're attracted to his spirit. You're attracted to his energy. You're just not attracted to him.
Okay. I might sound a little shallow, but as a Scorpio, physical is important. So if this guy's making my toes curl,
Okay.
I would try to figure out how we can see each other more often
Okay.
and see where it goes.
See, but I think this is a perfect example of like how women are more shallow than men are. Because the reality is a man could date the maid, the babysitter, right? Like if she looks a particular way, you'll be more inclined to give her a chance. But women, on the other hand, they tend to seek after men with status. If they don't have status, they tend to be rebuffed, right? Like no one wants to date the janitor. I mean, he may give some good cock, right? I get that, right? Some women will, find a way to make their way to the mop room to avail themselves to pleasure. But outside of that, they're not going to be seeking to marry the guy and introduce him as their spouse or their significant other. That's just not likely to happen. And I think that's the real, crux of this conversation is about the shallowness that women tend to portray, and it's normalized throughout culture, throughout society. Like women are not expected to be with, someone of low stature.
I mean, I think we need to like take a step back. Why is the janitor part of the consideration set? Like, why isn't there like a wide selection of men? You have the janitors on one side, you have the CEO on the other side, and you have something in between.
All right, so you telling me right now that if you're making $300,000 a year, that you'll be okay with a guy making $20,000?
No, no.
Exactly, and that's my point, because there is a double standard here. Like the standard that applies to women don't necessarily apply to men, and I think like even in terms of what we were speaking to, where attractability, like you placing great emphasis on attractability, and all of these things you see are rather cumulative, right? You have on one hand got to have status. You want the guy who's at least making as much as you or on track to making as much as you. Otherwise, you're not going to give him a second look.
Okay, here's the thing. There are many women who want to be taken care of. And possibly if they have children with their partner, maybe they want to be a full-time mom, right? So they want a man that can support them and their future family.
But how do you ascertain that?
For me, you don't have to be a CEO. You just have to have steady income coming in, and you have to be able to meet your monthly obligations and have play money left
But
over.
what if they're not at that point? What if they're on that track? Because you're saying like you expect, and I think it's a fair expectation. I'm not being dismissive of it, but the idea that you got to have, for the lack of a better word, you got to have your shit together.
You do. I mean, this is the thing. If you're in your 20s, sure, you can be a mess. You're still trying to figure it out. You're not making much. If the two of them are in their 20s, sure, like they'll figure it out together, right? They'll go through tough times together. But like, and I think that might be okay also in your 30s. But once you hit like the other side of your 30s, going into your 40s, you want someone to have a foundation.
You do, but at the same time, what about that possibility? What about being able to, you know, have someone with prospects who has the potential? Because you're speaking to like demonstrated outcomes. And I think, again, I'm not dismissing that, but there's another component. The other component is the ability to the prospects of this individual enhancing their status, enhancing their wealth. They just may not be at that pivotal point in their life yet. And to dismiss them is kind of mean spirited.
Well, if they're close, then it could be part of the consideration set. We're not like saying, oh no, he's close, but no, we won't consider him. I think that could be allowed in the pool.
Well, I think like number one, a lot of women got way too high of a standard in terms of what they expect in men. They expect men to have abilities and money and things of that sort, but they don't hold themselves to that same standard. And there's an old mantra that says, be the person that you seek. So at the same time, it's sort of like a double standard because you're expecting someone to have all of these things together, right? But you may not be fully put together either. Because all right, I get in your instance, you're put together, you have everything in order. So those are reasonable expectations for you. But there are those out there with unreasonable expectations. They expect for a guy to have a car, a guy to have a good, well or decent paying job, but they don't hold themselves to that same standard. Like they don't have a job. They're still sleeping wherever it is that they're sleeping. That's not a home, right? And they're still maybe not even pursue like their high school diploma. They may not have received that, but they want a guy with a college degree. They want a guy with a master's degree. They want a guy who's family oriented. I mean, these things are incongruent with one another.
I agree with you because when I was talking earlier, I was talking about like me and my peer group, but I didn't really think about that group of people that you're talking about, those who don't have it together, but they want someone that does. It isn't fair. I agree with you.
Absolutely.
I
It's
agree with you.
insanity. I mean, you cannot expect like any more from someone else than you would expect of yourself. But I think there is going back to that profile of there's a group of women who are, high achievers, right? Hold themselves, they're highly effective, highly productive, generate money, are working on their goals and aspirations, and are that pivotal point where they're able to like make everything that they've ever desired financially into a reality, right? But then they meet someone who may not have a six-figure job, or they may not have, a house with, a three-car garage, right? They just may work at, let's say, Home Depot. Like, why are these men not qualified to be with a woman who makes $300,000? Because most of the time it seems as if like their sole concern is, how much money does he make? How much money does he make? And so the question becomes, in addition to looks, how much do we give in terms of weight to how much a person makes?
I mean, that's a good question. And I think it depends on also where you are, right? Let's say someone doesn't have it together. They want their partner to make six figures, right? But I think if you yourself have it together, then I think, and I'm trying to think about like putting myself in the situation. I think that if their salaries are close, right, then it's okay. But like, do people actually sit down and talk about how much they make? Like, do couples talk about that?
I mean,
I haven't.
I
I
think at
haven't
the
come across
appropriate
that.
time they should. It all comes down to the sensibilities of the people that's involved in the
hmm
relationship.
hmm
But why? And my thing is, it's like it's kind of trying to think of the proper word that would describe this. Like it's like pretentious, right? To go around saying, I have a doctorate degree, right?
hmm
I make
hmm
$800,000 a year,
It
right?
is.
And it's like you gotta have some cute human characteristics, like being humble,
hmm
right? having a good listening ear, and to see if whether or not before you even get to the money, because it's no different than you take someone, you go out on a first date with someone,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're
Mm-hmm.
sitting across Shake Shack table with them, and the first thing they say is, like, so how do you like to have sex,
Oh,
right?
whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
Like so to start off with this idea of like, hey, where do you work at it? How much do you make? Right? Those are fair questions.
Mm-hmm.
But are we there yet?
Right. Are we there yet?
Are we
Yeah.
there yet?
Yeah. I agree
Like
with
we're
you.
not there yet. Like it's like, putting the buggy before the horse.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just out of order.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think oftentimes it's like we gotta sit back and do a reset
Mm-hmm.
to think about like what exactly our approach is going to be to how we fare on the dating market in terms of like what qualities and weight we give to different characteristics and features of an individual that's
Mm-hmm.
going to be like most telling whether or not it is capable of being a sustaining relationship outside of finances, outside of looks. Because what if any of these things are indicators of sustainability?
Mm-hmm. Right. It's making me feel like let's give our viewers some homework. Why don't everyone put together their profile and like what's important to them and weight them and
Good
like,
point.
give us some comments, give us some feedback because I feel like this is a really good conversation here. And you know what? Just going back to your Home Depot explanation, what kind of, let's say it's a man, to use your example, what kind of a man who works at Home Depot, what kind of woman is that man looking for?
I
I'm
mean,
just curious.
I mean that's a good point.
Because
You
is
took.
that man looking for someone making $300,000 or what? What's going on
Are
there?
you saying the Home Depot
The
guy?
Depot guy, yes.
So you're
Yes.
saying the Home Depot guy is he
Yeah.
looking for a woman who's making three hundred
Yeah, I'm
thousand?
curious.
And look, I think the framing of this discussion I failed to set because the context is that you're meeting someone in an organic way, whether it's at a gathering, maybe at a local club or bar, or
Ice
maybe at
skating
the
rink.
library, ice skating rink, in the more modern way of internet, right? You meet
Mm-hmm.
someone on the internet,
The apps.
so applications,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like, what are you looking for? You're looking for somebody who you're compatible with. You're
Mm-hmm.
looking for someone who like being with is easy and it's not work.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that it's going to be easy in terms of like they're not going to be different dynamics that's going to be presented, but easy in terms of like the two of you gel in such a way where it's like it's a seamless process. It's
Yeah.
not anything that you feel as if like you have to do any type of calculations,
Mm-hmm.
right? It just works. Like you get together, you're able to have this exchange, have the experience, and you go away feeling good, or you go away feeling better than you entered into that interaction,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So you're not really saying, because if you're starting off by saying, "Oh, I'm looking for someone who has a degree, someone who has, a six-figure job," right? Like it's backwards because you may meet someone who meet that criteria. They're just not for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Good
the
point.
approach I'm speaking of is more akin to, well, good-hearted, integrity, character, right? Have a sense of responsibility, right? And so if you lead with that, you're more likely to end up with someone who, where to the two of you together, right, could
Mm-hmm.
begin to take your 300,000 and together, maybe with a little bit of your guidance. Maybe he needs a little bit of your guidance, but he's stronger in a different respect,
That's
right?
beautiful to know that.
Right? It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. You can meet someone where you recognize your skills and your abilities and you know your limitations or you know the extent of your ability.
Mm-hmm.
So if you start off with the premise, well, I know what I bring to the table and someone may be more apt
Mm-hmm.
in another respect and you're humble enough, but more importantly, intelligent enough to recognize the extent of your ability. And you
Mm-hmm.
could defer to someone who has it. So I just think it's a mistake to make the qualifications things that aren't going to sustain you, which is how a person looks and how much a person makes. Now, look, I have to be honest. Some people are fortunate. You can have the best of everything,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm gracious and I'm appreciative that such doesn't apply to me. That
Mm.
I have someone who, I don't want to make this about me, but you
Go
you
ahead.
take
Go
my
ahead. Go
point.
ahead. We
Well,
want to
I
hear
have
it.
someone who has meets all of that criteria. I mean,
Aw.
she's physically attractive, she's
Ooh.
mentally attractive,
Mm.
and there's no limit to whatever it is that she aspires to do other than what she imposes upon herself.
Mm. Wow. That was beautiful.
I know. And don't get jealous, but it's just what it is. She's a beautiful woman, very supportive. I'm the luckiest man alive. I mean that
Aw.
sincerely. But
Aw.
again, going back to the beginning of our discussion, right? Like, what would you do if you found a bunch of money? Would you keep it? But again, we see if we would extrapolate from that in terms of what do you do when you find someone who fulfills you, but they may not look a particular way. Like, are you going to keep it or are you going to give it away?
That's a hard one. That's a hard one.
And it's so funny that before we close this out, but just to reflect on this whole notion of, you know, value system. If it's money, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're dealing with you know, the true heart, it becomes a totally different question. The
Mm-hmm.
question at that point becomes, well, you know, do they look good? But you don't love with your eyes.
Mm.
You love with your heart.
You better preach.
So those are my words. Look, do it before we close out. Anything else you want to add? You want to reflect upon? Please.
I'm thinking because you dropped a lot of jewels, a lot of pearls. Um, I just want to add that when you find your partner, whether or not you're attracted to them or not, the most important thing is communication,
100%.
right? Because if you're
100%.
not communicating, your partner can't read your mind. So it's
Exactly.
important to communicate how you're feeling, what you want, how things make you feel, because that's also very important in relationships, right? You can have it all, but if there's no communication, the foundation will crumble.
Listen, thank you for that. So, listen, for all you out there, I just want to let you know we're going to be dropping 2 episodes a week. Please share your comments, subscribe,
Subscribe.
telegram.com, Telegram Network, the Oddity Report, please. We're going to be growing and growing, and this is just the beginning. Have a great, great day, night, evening. If you're listening to this in your car, in your shower, like, please stay with us. We're going to be bringing you more and more and more, and it's only going to get better. Have a great night.
See you later.